Hello everybody, this is Pete from PA Labs, and yesterday it kind of dawned on me. I'm debating on changing the war game to include its own scripting language, and so I started to build a little prototype of that, and I don't know that I'm going to do it, and the reason for this is I've done the scripting language with screens. So all you do is make selections on screens, and it all gets saved to the database, and then it's run from the database. And I think that's a cleaner way to do it. But I'll throw it out there. I mean, I'd love to hear your all's comments on do you prefer having scripting in a game? And the game creation, this is the storyboard stuff. So, as an example here, I want to walk you through. This is the file I'm going to run here in a minute. And basically it says, okay, a pound sign is a comment. So he's going to ignore that. He's going to ignore all the blank lines. We have set var as a command. And then he grabs the variable name. He saves it to a map, and he has the current value. But he keeps track of all of this. On turn 5, message, hello gamers, it's turn 5, end. So you begin your scripting commands with a on this or on that. Let's see, what are some of the others that oh, that's all I got in here. I put a lot more into the actual scripting. I guess we should come up. Well, no, let's stay here. So on turn 5, maybe it's on city capture or on unit killed or that kind of thing. So what you're doing is identifying the event, and then you have a parameter. And so here we're saying, okay, on the city capture of Paris, the city name is Paris, set var allies win to 1, message Paris has fallen, the allies gain momentum. So this is after D-Day and whatnot. On turn 10, if allies win, equals 1, and I don't know that we're going to use the C# type codes of equal, but for now, I mean, I put them in just because I was messing with C# the other day. So you can see how it actually says, okay, this particular map ends on turn 10. If the allies win, if the allies have won, then you can say the access retreat eastward, and then load a second campaign map, and the game continues. Else you can say, okay, the access rallies their forces in Ardennes, and then you go to a different map. So basically, you're branching the ability of the game storyboarding to be different depending on what's going on. So that's the gist behind the scripting language. And so let's go look at the scripting code. This whole first section is setting up a war game. So we have a little city object, we have game units, we have players, opponents. So here's our war game object. We give it an ID and a name. We have a couple opponents, we have some cities, and we have some units. So initialization, so we're going to initialize our game object so we can initialize the lists, basically. And then I have a big data load. So this is going to be, we create a global new game, war game object. We then pass it to the init and get it all cleaned up. And then we come down and I'm setting all the variables here. I create 2 opponents, the French and Germany. I guess we could say allies and access, whatever. We have Paris and Berlin as our two cities. We have a game unit called Rommel, and we have a French unit of Jaffe. So I'm not exactly sure how that's pronounced. I'm guessing. Then we start actually into the script language. So basically, this is our game unit up here. So this is the game we're playing. So I'm not going to go through moving units and all that kind of stuff, but just the scripting language. So the scripting object, I've put comments throughout the code just so everybody can read what things are. So we have a script event, which is a trigger type, a trigger parameter. Basically, it's kind of a, this is on turn, maybe a, let's see, what would be event, on an event. But this is trigger type, and then the parameter is the on turn 3, or the city of what's the city, Paris. Unit could be, maybe the unit is Rommel. So you're looking to see if Rommel has been captured or killed. Okay, so we're going to have a list of events, which are a list of these script objects. And then we're going to have a map, which has variables of type string. Okay, so I have a few declares for some of the functions here, because all of the functions are using values of these types. So the declares are here. If we have a set var, this is variable management. Okay, so you're going to set the variable, the name of the variable and the value. We go to the map, we look up the name, we set its value. So then we have a get var. You give me a name, I go get the variable and bring it back to you. So then we have a persistence section that says, okay, we can write all this out to a file or read it all back. And basically that just ends up being variable equals value with no spaces, and then we grab string field 1, string field 2, so we can reload our map, and you can basically have variables created in one map, and then when you get to the next map, they're all still there, right? You can save them out and you can load them back. If they save their game, you'd need to do that. Okay, so then comes the load script. Now, this is physically going to load this guy here, all right? So, we trim. Here's a problem that I ran into because of my wording. We're only looking at the first 2 characters, okay? So, because all of these begin with on. So we know if it's an on, we're starting a command. Likewise, the word end ends our command. So what we're going to do is, when we come through this, if we find the first 2 characters are the word on, or letters on, then we start a new variable or command, and then we load everything between the on and the end. Now, we have to be careful of if var else end if. Okay, if we keep this logic, well, you can't trim the right hand side. We only trim, you can't trim the left hand side. You have to trim the right hand side only. So that way the first 2 characters are spaces or a tab. So that's the caveat in how I spit this out last night. Let's see. So this just loads it in. We do a read. We're doing a write trim on the variables on the lines being read in from the file. And then I do a quick trim to get everything down to say, okay, if it's empty, get rid of it. If the left trim space 1 is a pound sign, well, that's our comment. We're going to ignore those two. So then we have a lowercase. I converted everything to lowercase just for this test here. And so we're looking for ON on this, on that, as you can see in the comment. Then we create and load up this variable. When we get to EN, that means it's ending, with EN. So we know that, okay, we're done. I'm going to move this all over into the events list that we have. And then if we get an SE, that would be a set value variable. And this handles the set variable. Let's see. And then we have the default. Now, we pick up the beginning. This is the beginning on. This is the end, END. So default is everything in between. All we do is grab all of that and load it into the commands array. So that's the else. So if we come back up here, we have the trigger type, which is on this, on that. The parameter, this or that on turn 5. Well, this is 5, or city capture Paris. This is Paris. Now, we have a run command, which says, okay, if we find that an event has fired, then we want to run the commands, and this just spins through all the possible commands that we have, and it does something. Maybe we load maps, so you're going to call some scenario, whatever. If we get to an end if, we're done with our logic of the command. If var, then we call the handler if var. If we have set var, then we call our command, our handler for the set var commands. So basically, it just gives you debug messages where you need to hook in your code of what you want it to do. And then we come down here, the conditional logic. Okay, so this is okay, so this is the conditional logic of the if var. So we can say if var equals not equals. I don't know if you want to keep that or do the PureBasic way of doing it, or leave the C# way of doing it. Personally, I kind of prefer the C# way, but I'm used to BASIC for many, many years, so no big deal. So this could be expanded to equal to and greater than, so that would add a couple more. So then we have what it's doing. So if I found it and the result is true versus false, then, you know, process it. So this is doing the, okay, next element. We got a false reading, so that means that's not true, so we just ignore it and keep going. Let's see. Check events. So this is our runtime check. So basically, we have all of this on the top, and that's what we're going to use down here in our, here's our example usage. So if I define a variable current turn and say 5, we can come in and say, yeah, we don't need this. All right, so we load our script. Okay, so this is going to be what I've named our scripting language script file, which it's just a text file. And we say, okay, check events. So check events, let's go ahead and jump to check events. Check events is saying, okay, we're going to say for each event, and then he goes through and sees if an event has happened. All right. And if an event has happened, he comes in and says, okay, event has happened, run the commands. Well, we pass the event command to the function, and then the function reads through all the commands and processes them in turn. So what we have is a small script. So we have a hello message, hello gamers, it's turn 5. And then if on city capture is Paris, then we set var allies win, and we have our set var up here to false, so this would be true. And then we can say Paris has fallen, the allies are gaining momentum against the Axis. Okay, so I didn't include turn 10. We could real easily, that's no big deal. Let's go do that. So we can come down here and say and we will say I'm just doing this would be normally inside a loop, your game loop, and as turns increment, you work your way through the phases. We can then come over here and say this. Okay. So if I do this, so the check events, this would be normally your game loop, right? You're going to repeat forever, and you're doing these 5 things or 10 things a billion times in the game. And in the middle of this, you got to check events. Here's my stuff, so go see if it happened. If a scenario is complete, go load the next whatever. Okay, so this is a lot of sample what if kind of thing. And so if we run this, it comes back with, okay, I ran it twice, check events with turn 5. So turn 5 gets to be doubled. So hello gamers, it's turn 5. And then we come into hello gamers, it's turn 5. That's our second time we ran. Now I haven't looked to see why you're printing twice. I'm doing something kind of squirrely, but that's the basic gist here is that it's run. So then, oh, I know why. Because we have current turn is 10. And we're saying that up here on city capture, then we have, where is it? Run command events. So he's coming in here and he's saying that, okay, he's checking to see if this has happened. Paris is not equal to, he runs this command. So, yeah, he's looking at this code here to do that, right? So he hits this on city capture Paris, and then he sets this. So what we need to do is say, if we've already done this, we need an off. Don't keep running the same command over and over and over. It happens once. Okay, but anyhow, that's something that we can add later. So then we have our message of it's turn 10, the axis reach eastward, and now we're going to load campaign allies map. Okay, so now let's go move this over there, and let's walk through how that happened. So let's see. We said here's our fall of Paris, right? And we only want that to fire once. So and we want to say let's say if trigger parm is Paris and no, I thought I did that. Does not equal to, then run commands O. that's true. Paris now equals 1. So then what we would want to do, we'd have to put a switch here that says, how would we do that? I don't know. I'll have to give it some more thought. But anyhow, my gist in this video was to show you how you can build your own scripting language with PureBasic. And this is a heck of a good start. If there's interest in this code, I'll put it out on the website. Leave me a comment or something, and I will put it out there in on the website for y'all to download. I may end up doing it anyhow, but if you ever wanted to create your own programming language with PureBasic, this is basically a way to do it. Never do I say that this is the only way to do it. I'm sure there's a million different ways to do it, but this is a way you can do it. So anyhow, thanks for watching my video.